Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio, a program that brings to you the latest developments in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we are talking industrial development, and our focus is the Idu Industrial layout in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, which seems to have abandoned its core mandate of industrial capability and capacity to build the streams of its objectives in order to better the lives of Nigerians by way of creating job opportunities for the teeming Nigerian youths. So today we're going to talk more about the possibilities of this massive industrial project that seems to be lying idle at this point in time, that most Nigerians would need to revitalize the sector and then engage so many of our expertise and all the resources required that will bring, back the glory and the profile of this very important project. I am not alone in the studio. I'm here to serve you, to do justice to this very important program with two gentlemen. And I have experts in the field of industrial development. To my left, I have Paul Wadema. Paul, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, to my right, I have Kes Hammond. Kes, you're welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
So we are on live on this program, and we're talking about how to revive this all-important project that seems to be lying idle, and then see how far we can go in making adequate investment in this sector in order to help the national economy to grow at this point in time where COVID-19 is still ravaging the entire world, and particularly our country, Nigeria. Let me begin with you, Mr. Kes. Idu Industrial layout is designed as a cluster of project of industrial development in order to attract investment and attract industry to the sector. The purpose has been very great, but then the implementation and what is left of that project seem not to be in consonance with the required objectives of this very project. One begin to wonder, in this era of COVID-19 that we're all talking about economic recovery, wouldn't we look into that sector and see how we're going to revive that important massive structure to be able to key it into the economic programs of recovery?
Yeah, just like you said, it's a massive project, but it's a laudable one also. Idu Industrial Park is some 245 hectares of land, and it's meant to have at least 170 industrial plots. With that, there is this notion among many people that the only thing people do in Abuja is government business.
Yes.
Apart from that, people who do businesses, buying and selling, and religion also. Yes, those are the things that people involve themselves with, or maybe transportation you can add, that people involve themselves with to make a living. But this Idu Industrial Park is designed to cover at least the industrial aspect of this area. Abuja is a bustling city. There's no doubt about that. And being a bustling city and a growing one also, there are millions of people who reside in Abuja. If you have millions of people residing in a city without any industrial facilities, it only makes room for criminals to for criminality to brew. Yes, but it's a laudable one. It's a laudable project, and the federal government is it behooves them to make sure that that project comes to fruition. Already, there are some entities, including World Health Organization, we have Nigeria's liquefied petroleum, and a number of them that have signified interest in developing their interest in that area, and it will be a good thing. Another thing is, if you look around Abuja, which states do you have? You have Benue, you have Kogi, Niger. There are youths that are in all of these states, and these youths are actually they've converged here, and the jobs available are not yet. There aren't jobs available, so that would be a good project. It will make a creation for jobs, and then it will actually forestall crime.
Okay, let me turn to you, Paul. You heard that it's a noble objective, but then why does it appear that as if the project has been abandoned? Because if you pay a visit to that place and then you discover that the required investments are not there, there are some cluster of businesses going on there, but that cannot qualify to be as the kind of objective in the mind of those who actually created that industrial park. What do you think is the problem?
Okay, the Idu Industrial Estate is one of the clusters that was created by the federal government to encourage industrialization. It's one of the industrial estates you have around the country. You have them in Lagos, you have them in Port Harcourt, you have them in Kano, Kaduna, and several other parts of the country. They are supposed to maximize on the comparative advantages that are bound in several sections of this country.
Yes.
Unfortunately for FCT, the industrial sector appeared to have been neglected, and the emphasis has been on government ministries, parastatals, and agencies. Because if you look at the Idu Industrial Estate, the negligence is obvious to anybody who approaches that estate. The roads are in poor state, even the interconnected roads to enter the industrial estate, they are all bad, they're not well maintained. This despite the fact that there are some government agencies domiciled in that area, like National Agency for Science, Engineering and Infrastructure, and then you have the National Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria and all that. The state of the road and it shows you how the government value industrial development of the FCT. But the problem had been there. I can't place it on this present administration. Even though it has 6 years to do something, it has not done something about it. But the truth of the matter is that there is need to revitalize that industrial estate, because the mandate of that estate is to create productivity, increase productivity. And you know, Nigeria has always been a primary industrial producing nation. We produce agricultural produce and then we don't add value to them. So there was need to diversify into manufacturing. Idu Industrial is supposed to be part of this diversification process of the federal government of Nigeria. Unfortunately, it has not been so. And the actions of government have also not helped matters. You see overtaxation of even the industries that are there. You see a lot of industries that manage to operate there. They complain how AMAC officials levy them all the time. The AMAC officials are not talking about how to make the industrial estate much more productive, much more effective in terms of ensuring steady power, in terms of ensuring that other infrastructures are there. Yes. All they care about is how much they can get from the investors there. And this kind of thing discourages investors. And that's why, despite the size of the estate, industrial estate, many industries are yet to take advantage of that massive opportunity.
There was this Turkish company, Zeba said, that was given the contract to pave the road to Idu Industrial Estate.
Yes.
I don't know. They seem to have.
They also have
It seems
disappeared.
to be an abandoned project. Of course, many people will blame it on COVID-19, but that was a project that was awarded in 2018.
Yes.
What has been done? Nothing. I don't know. It seems I don't know why governments would like to start projects with not the view of ending it or finishing it.
Yes, there's this other thing that we all talk about, the culture of not the culture of abandoned projects.
Yes.
For instance, we are talking about Idu Industrial Park now. There are so many other areas, like Paul mentioned, that are suffering the same fate. You can even extend it further to the steel rolling mills that we have. You can talk about Ajokuta Steel Company, for instance, of which you and I know that for how many years now they have been talking about revitalizing it. They've been talking about investing and reinvesting and all that. Up to this moment, or nearly about 40 years after it has been established, we have not had any tangible program. And Ajokuta Steel has not produced even one single slab of steel. Now, I'm talking about this. It might be a little bit of digression, but we're still talking about the industrialization of the country using different methods and different forms. I was in South Korea some time ago, and there was this company at the same level with Nigeria's steel company, Ajokuta Steel Company. They both started at the same level at the same time with the production of about 1.3, liquid 1.3 million tons of liquid steel per annum. Today, Ajokuta does not produce any, but years later, that particular company is now producing about 25.3 million tons of liquid steel per annum. So they have taken over the steel market in the world. We are still talking about investment and reinvestment. What exactly is the problem? There's something has to be fundamentally wrong.
Well,
a system like us, Paul, maybe you have to take this one.
Yes. I think we have not shown much commitment in industrialization of the country because there is an urgency to industrialize this country. And in fact, I can say with certainty that Nigeria has been condemned to industrialize. It has no choice anymore. Don't forget that the African Free Trade Area has taken off.
Yes, this year. And
for any country in Africa to maximize the advantage, it must be productive. Because that free trade area, I want to emphasize on productivity in the continent. It's not for you to be importing things and be distributing around the whole continent.
Yes.
So those that will do well are countries that has made determination efforts to industrialize. And I can assure you that if Nigeria doesn't take advantage of places like this Idu Industrial Estate, revitalize it, make it a hub that will attract investors all over the world, I can assure you that countries like South Africa, Egypt,
even Rwanda,
they will take over the whole continent in terms of this production of goods and services. So we have no choice. We just need to ensure that industrial estates like Idu is functional, is effective, and is live up to its mandate. And government need to do more. It cannot keep on talking about diversification. Agriculture is not the only place you can diversify.
Yes.
Agreed, the government has done a lot in terms of agricultural diversification. Yes. Of course, some of the impact of the diversification are not being felt yet, but I believe with time it will be felt. But we need to do more about industrialization. Yes. We need to industrialize this country. That is the only way we can move from a third world to a first world.
We need to industrialize this country, and that is the only way. Just like Paul has said it, we are already condemned to doing it, and there is no way out of it. On that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. Glad you're still remaining with us. We're still talking about the Idu Industrial layout in the Federal Capital Territory and how of the opportunities there are in that particular project that we seem to be missing because of obvious reasons, lack of investment and infrastructural deficit in that very important project. So we're looking at the way forward now. What does it take a nation, for instance? Let me come to you, Mr. Kess. What does it take a nation to invest in a project like this? I have given you an example of my experience in South Korea. Then we come back here each time we do budgeting. We don't remember industrialization. Then we look at the urbanization. We are now like a fast urbanizing nation because of the growth rate of population. We're about 3.4% annual growth rate. And then the economy is growing at approximately 2% per annum, or at least less than 2% per annum. You can see the poverty rate is about 3% now.
Some sources say 42.
Some say 42%. Everything is on the high side. The per capita income of Nigeria is one of the least in Africa, despite the fact that Nigeria, in terms of the GDP, where we seem to be the biggest, but we measure it in per capita, not in terms of the GDP. So lack of industrialization, is one of the reasons given by experts. That's the reason we are not making progress in rebuilding and revamping this economy. But then what does it really take to invest in a very important sector like the industrialization of the country?
Well, these things, when you want to invest, it requires focus. There ought to be focus, and I think government needs to change that culture and focus. Let's not allow industrialization to be a political thing. That when you want to say, I built this, or this regime wants to say, we built this, and they focus on, let it be a continuum at least. Yes, because we see abandoned projects everywhere, and these things usually come to be sheer waste. There is this law of Isaac Newton's third law of thermodynamics, or alternatively, they call it entropy. If you have an asset here and you leave it without using it, you lose it over time. This building we are in, or any building, if you set it up and nobody stays in it, over time it begins to depreciate. It deteriorates.
Yes.
If you have a machine, or if you have a factory, and you are not using it to produce anything, over time, these are iron and steel. They rust.
Yes.
Once you are not using them, they begin to lose value. And that is how the government has been wasting money over the decades. That's not fair, at least to taxpayers. Sorry. These monies are used to invest. These are taxpayers' money. Let me sometimes say it's oil money, but oil money is the people's money.
Yes.
Yeah, when you use it to invest, let not politics be a part of it. Invest this money so that the projects you are investing it in will actually bring returns. Yes. But it's you go and make political show of going to to launch a project, and it lasts for years, in fact decades, with nothing coming out of it. You only waste taxpayers' money. That culture needs to stop. Government needs to focus on getting things done and getting them done in time. Yes, so that it benefits the people. Even the roads, when the government is rehabilitating or building roads and they last too long, they spend more money on it. That is natural. It's natural. Because if you leave anything, you leave, just like we said, that entropy, once you leave something fallow, it loses value. Yes, it happens even with our brains.
Your brain,
yes, some people say, use it or lose it. That's natural.
Okay, Paul, there's another issue that is quite disturbing in terms of the effects of poor industrialization in the country. You can see that the youths that are supposed to be engaged, if these industries are working, are actually not doing anything. And the wise saying is that the idle mind is the devil's workshop, and that may have been reasons. We're not justifying that, why some of these young people are not going into all kinds of crime, yahoo, even kidnapping and armed robbery. So in order to keep the life afloat. Now, in terms of because sometimes we suggest to government that there should be a particular fund set aside for this particular project of industrializing Nigeria. Maybe there should also be a special budgetary allocation for industrialization. How much of this do you think will make much impact? Do you think that increased budgetary allocation for industrialization purposes will go a long way in solving this problem? Or do you think that even if they produce better budgetary allocation, it's still a dysfunctional system that will swallow everything up? Maybe we're in a catch-22 situation now.
Thank you for this question. And I don't know whether you read the recent opinion article by the President Muhammad Buhari, that was published in Financial Times of London,
Yes.
where he was talking about the fact that Africa is going to be the next frontier of world terrorism. He made mention of the fact that what Africa need is jobs.
Yes.
Africa need jobs. Africa need economic support from the world, because most of these terrorists or would-be terrorists are young people. He emphasized on those two key. And he also said that his government is determined to provide infrastructure. In fact, he was saying that roads, rails are going to be the things that will generate jobs that could help to stop terrorism, by creating jobs, which is very laudable suggestion the president made. And now, if we situate it in where we are now, we're talking about Idu Industrial Estate. What can we do to make it effective? One, there is need for government to ensure that all the road networks that lead to Idu Industrial Estate, they are well constructed, they are functional, they are motorable. There is need to ensure that there is 24 hours power supply.
Yes.
In that estate. There is need to ensure that the investors themselves are not overtaxed.
Yes.
To encourage them to continue to invest, especially at a time when COVID-19 has caused so many industries to close up. So these are the basic things I expect that the government will do. Now, if government do this, like they used to say, build it, they will come. If you provide some of these things I mentioned, investors will come. And when the investors come, jobs will be created, the youths will be employed, the level of unemployment will reduce,
Yes.
the level of crime will reduce. So all this will have a multiplier effect.
Yes.
So what government need to do is industrial estates like Idu. We are using Idu as our fulcrum as we analyze, but it should be nationwide, so that all these industrial estates are provided with the necessary infrastructure that will attract investors. That an investor will not be thinking about having generator when he gets allocation to any of those estates. It is to concentrate in production. What the estates were established to do is to increase productivity. And look at it, who are the most productive population in Nigeria? They are the youth.
Yes.
Now, unless you put them to work, that latent productive energy will be in them. And if they are not well directed, they will project it in a negative sense. Of course, we are feeling the impact of years of neglect of industrialization and even agriculture itself. So that's why we are where we are today. So basically, it is a problem that we can easily solve. The president himself is determined. He has already said it that he wants to reduce terrorism, violence, and all these things with job creation, with building of roads, with railways and stuff like that. Fine and good. There is also need for him to pay attention to the industrialization of the country.
Yes.
Because the rails and the roads are not only there to convey agricultural goods and imported goods, they should also be there to encourage manufacturers. So what do? Provide them with steady power. Make sure that the roads in those estates are well connected.
Yes.
They are motorable.
Yes.
And leave it to them. I can assure you that Nigerian private sector people know how to. They know how to make lemon if you give them lemon.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Sorry, before you continue, there's something I want to lose this stream of thought. There's something a visit to that particular park revealed a lot about the challenges of facing, the challenges the people who are there trying to revive the sector are also facing a lot of challenges. Like, they can't even have access to credit facilities to boost their business, apart from the overtaxation that Paul has talked about. You can see very high interest rates, even when they want to seek, to get credit from the banks. And the government has not made any support fund available for them from, where they can pool resources and support their businesses. They're just managing barely to survive in that sector. So what exactly do you think should be done in this area?
Yeah, that's another thing. The federal government needs to know how to tax people, the right people. Businesses are choking, just like you mentioned earlier. The cost of running businesses is high. Of course, you have to provide your own electricity, your own water. You have to provide your own roads. You have to provide your own security, and many of those things. So, to get people to invest or to come and put money into a project like that or into their personal business, it requires that the right environment is put in place. Yes. And once that is done, people will come. You don't look, like they say, if you want sheep around you, don't run after them. Just put food where they can eat. They will come by themselves. And just so before we go, I want to make a point. You see, it's a serious disservice when projects like this start with no end in sight. I say so because many of the investment funds used to start these projects are borrowed.
Yes.
And before long, you begin to pay interest on that borrowed funds without it bringing any returns. Yes. So the onus falls back on taxpayers to pay for what they are not getting any returns on. That is a serious disservice. Government needs to really, if it is one or two projects that a regime can undertake, and make sure that those projects are actually delivered. Fine, instead of undertaking 50 projects and delivering none.
Oh. Yeah. We have been talking about the Idu Industrial layout in Abuja, the federal capital, and I've been joined by Paul Owadima, to do justice to this very important topic, and also being joined by Kes Hammond to look into this matter. And they all talked about investment in the sector, and in this, it's only this by investing in this sector that the country can revive its economy, and then of course help the GDP to grow, so that the jobs will be provided for the teeming youth of this country. And it's on that note that we draw the curtains of today's edition of Money Radio, and we promise we're going to bring a fresh edition of the program when next will come. Thank you. I remain blessed.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.